South Africa is a country where mutually annihilating truths coexist quite happily. It is true that the ANC has failed in some respects, and yet the converse is equally valid. We trekked into the heartland to examine this riddle more closely. In the apartheid days, tourist brochures used to describe South Africa as many worlds in one country. The slogan was widely mocked, but the ANC never changed it because it's profoundly true. This is the world of white commercial farmers. It's orderly, organized, highly productive, but it's also fading. Just 3 miles away, a revolution is underway. When I first came down this road 2 decades ago, all the farms along it were white-owned. Now whites are history. A few were murdered. The rest were bought out by the ANC, which restored the land to its original Zulu occupants, often with mixed results. Once upon a time, this was a productive potato field. Now it lies fallow, its irrigation pipes dug up and converted into soccer goalposts.
Yes, kid. Kunjan. Yeah.
Rian, this man says he saw you people here and he wants to give his opinion about what the problem is here. The problem here is that a lot of people were put together to control one space, and their views are so diverse that it's very hard to get them to all agree on anything.
Numzan, your ancestors are buried here in these mountains here. It's a long time you didn't live here. Now the land, it's still, even if there's these problems, it belongs to you. Are you happy that the land is back to you, even if there's problems?
So he's very happy that he's got the land of his ancestors, but he's very unhappy that he's unable to work the land to its potential.
Rory Alcock is a rural development worker. His mission is to help Zulus prosper on their reclaimed land. We're on our way to one of his projects. This is the homestead of Mr. Mbekwa Majozi, your average rural Zulu patriarch. He has 2 wives, 17 children, and more grandchildren than he can count. Their way of life harks back to earlier times. This is a scene from another century, but if you look closely, there's massive change. The land under this family's feet now belongs to them. Most mothers are receiving child support grants, and elders get old age pensions. What happens in this valley if the old age and child support grants cease? How important are they to?
I would say it's about an 80% wealth of all these homes is child grants.
The community built the school with its bare hands, but government sends teachers to staff it. Government also provides these desperately poor children with a square meal every day. These are the fruits of Mbeki's pro-market policies, which financed the creation of Africa's first welfare state. Around 13 million of the poorest poor subsist on state grants, which put cash into pockets that were once empty. Government is also pouring money into public works projects, electrification programs, water schemes, and in the nearest town, a brand new library. These rural people make up nearly half of South Africa's population, and they don't pay much attention to corruption scandals in distant cities. Another sign of the times. Once mud huts, today suburbia. Winnie Madondo works as a domestic servant in Johannesburg. Her life isn't perfect, but the ANC has done enough to hold her loyalty. So since the ANC came in, since Mandela, how has life changed in those rural areas?
There's so many changes. We've got electricity, we've got water, flushing toilets, things like that. There's so many things that have changed.
So how's this affecting the way you're thinking about politics now? We've got election coming. I mean, what's your thinking about what you're going to do on 22 April?
I'm going to vote for ANC, Msholozi for life.
So you trust Zuma? You look at him and you trust him?
Very much. He's a strong man, and I think he's going to make a lot of differences in everybody's life, black and white.
Msholozi is Zuma's Zulu clan name. We're on our way to his hometown in Kandla, where we've been promised an interview. Jacob Zuma grew up in this landscape, herding cattle and hunting birds in the bush. According to journalist Fred Kamalo, Zuma had almost no formal education.
There is a myth that he only started reading and writing on Robben Island. That actually is not accurate. During the day when he was a young boy of 10, 11, he couldn't go to school because he had to take care of his grandpa's cattle. But after hours, he would consult with school-going children from the neighborhood and pester them with questions. How do you write your name? Simple, basic things like that.
Officially, Zuma is here for the opening of an electricity substation, but the ANC has turned the event into a giant homecoming rally. These people are here to hail Nkandla's most famous son. In return, the ANC has arranged food for 10,000 and a sumptuous banquet for the elite. But first, there are speeches. 4 hours of them. And then there's a gift for his 99-year-old sister, Batofile, a high priestess of the Zulu cult of ancestor worship. After that, we were expecting an audience with a big man, but it was not to be.
You know, we spent an entire month setting up an interview with Mr. Zuma in the tent on the hillside over there, and there it goes. So just for the record, here in my book I've got the questions I so carefully prepared. This is a copy of an encrypted fax drafted about 10 years ago by a French arms dealer. He says here that Shabir Sheikh has asked a certain JZ to protect the French company against investigation, and that JZ has agreed in return for payments of about $50,000 a year. Are you the JZ mentioned here? That is the big question, and since Zuma has never explained, we just don't know.
People are worried we're going to become like Zimbabwe now, you know, it's getting crazy. People always panic around this time, election time in South Africa. I remember before our first democratic elections in 1994, people started panicking. Mandela was about to become president, the country was changing. You heard murmurs going through the ranks of all the nations, it was just madness. Some people were overjoyed, other people were getting ready to emigrate. I'm leaving, I'm going to Australia, I'm going. I can't believe a black president, can you believe? I don't know, this country is going to the dogs, it's going to the, I'm leaving. And now things are changing because Jacob Zuma could be our next president. And for the first time in South African history, black people are going, Eish, how much is that ticket to Australia again?
So yes, it's just a comedy routine, but that's actually an extremely telling joke. For centuries, the great cleavage in South African society has been race, white people versus black people. Now the ground is moving beneath our feet. Take a look at this poll. South Africans with no indoor bathroom, in other words, the poor, are solidly behind Jacob Zuma. Those with one bathroom are divided, and those with two or more are overwhelmingly in favor of the opposition. Indoor bathrooms are a marker for class, not race. Over the past 15 years, ANC policies have fostered a spectacular growth in the number of blacks with money and education. White South Africans have, of course, always been relatively well off. If this poll is to be trusted, these better off, better educated people are now united in their apprehension of Zuma's ANC.
Is this what we endured torture for? Exile? Is this what we swallowed tear gas for?
Archbishop Tutu is openly at war with the government these days. Many influential black editors and commentators likewise.
What we have in South Africa, amongst the black middle class, amongst the black political leadership, is a huge sense of victimhood. They feel that they were victimized by the whites, and therefore that they are owed a living by the whites. So they don't have to work themselves, they have to receive reparations. That is the mindset of the ANC leadership.
Analyst Maletsi Mbeki is a brother of the former state president. He's openly worried about the direction the country is taking.
We are now entering a recession which means that the commodity boom that was financing the welfare state is also coming to an end. Now, the consequence of that is that you, sooner or later, you will have to unwind the welfare state, and that's what triggers insurrections, and that's what triggers enormous, potentially, a lot of instability.